Good evening. This is Count Midnight. We're here at Quigley's Pub in Naperville, Illinois, courtesy of Diane Ladley from Naperville Ghost Tours. How you doing, Diane? We've interviewed Diane before, and we're here with the Chicago Paranormal Detectives, and I'll just pass the mic, and you guys can introduce yourself to our audience.
I'm Brian Jones. I am an investigative assistant with the Chicago Paranormal Detectives.
Any relation to Brian Jones from the Rolling Stones?
I get that all the time. No relation at all, but I hear it every time they tour.
Great.
I've heard him sing. He might be.
Heard him
You know,
sing.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah. Yeah, Tom Froelich. I'm a police officer.
Great.
Pete Schleich, police officer and forensic investigator.
And Ron Fabiani, police officer as well.
Alrighty. And can you briefly tell us what Chicago Paranormal Detectives are? And you're really CPD. That's not Chicago Police Department. It's just
No.
Chicago Paranormal Detectives. So who wants to take that one?
Sure. The Chicago Paranormal Detectives is a paranormal investigative organization staffed by policemen that investigate paranormal claims throughout the Chicagoland area. If there is an immediate need and there's some form of urgency, we will take your case into consideration and come out and see if we can help you out.
Now, what type of help do you provide to people when they ask you for help in a paranormal sense?
Well, it's usually people that are in need. It's businesses, it's homes where people can't work in the business anymore. People can't live in their home anymore because of the activity. What we do is go in there and provide a credible investigation. We apply our police skills and hopefully give them answers.
Now, what type of answers do you provide?
Well, I mean, what we do is collect evidence. That's what we do as cops. That's our profession. So we collect the evidence, whether it's auditory or visual, and we review that. And if there is any evidence to provide, we provide it to the client.
Great. And do these people pay you for your investigations?
No, our services are free of charge.
Absolutely free. And what's the weirdest thing you've ever investigated?
Pete, go ahead.
Well, we investigated the women's college up in Lake Forest. It was abandoned. And we just had a lot of different personal experiences as well as evidence that we were able to capture. I had a major personal experience up there seeing a figure down at the end of a hallway when we were setting up the cameras. So I think that one probably affected me the most. But I think each one of us has our favorite investigation.
Okay. And what would that one be yours? What about yours?
I'm like Tom. I kind of liked, we did a place that we found out used to be called the Casa Madrid, which was a former mafia nightclub, speakeasy at 25th Avenue and Lake Street in Melrose Park. And like Tom, I think that's probably one of my favorite places we went to. The complainant was a manager that didn't want to lock up at night. He was afraid of going in the basement and whatever. And we got a lot of audio evidence and some video clips too.
Yours?
No, I would have to say Casa Madrid. I mean, for me, just to be in that environment, the amount of people that were hurt down there and killed down there, just leaves a real negative imprint in that place. And for me, you could feel the energy when you were in there.
And I won't forget Brian over here. How you doing?
Right. The most memorable location, I would have to say we did an investigation about 2 years ago now in Galena, Illinois, at a restaurant called 111 Main. It was a former funeral home and casket maker. That was the location. It is a two-story restaurant with the third level of the building, a apartment that the owner of the restaurant that was converting into a residence. And
Did Ted Bundy eat here a lot?
I don't know. I didn't go that far into the research, but I'll have to delve further into that, I guess, or not. But that was probably the strangest location. We had some great EVPs, electro voice phenomenon that we had got there, and that was definitely probably the freakiest experience that we had. There was also a gentleman there who was claiming to be possessed. There's obviously no way that you can really verify that, but whether it was real or not, it was certainly odd for me to see that playing itself out. Even if it was being acted out by someone, it was odd to see someone going to that length.
Do any of these people that are possessed need to be locked up?
Well, you know what? Nobody calls 911 because everything's okay. We get called to crazy scenarios every day.
Yeah.
So it's not that unusual for us.
Now, what would you say is the similarity or difference between a paranormal detective and a ghost hunter?
Well, I don't think there's a whole lot different as far as what our goal is. The difference between us and other paranormal groups is we're cops by trade, and we do investigations each and every day. And that's what separates us from the other groups. But we're certainly not saying that the other groups aren't credible. We're just saying that this is what we do for a living, and we apply those skills to paranormal investigating.
Great. And you mentioned your EVP and your EMF and your fancy camera setup. Can somebody? It's the staff. Okay.
Yeah, this is Ron's staff. This is his wizard staff. I'll really pass this along somewhat and let him explain it. But this is, this is really prime paranormal real estate here. I'll let Ron do all the.
Because I don't think I've ever actually handled this. This is.
This is a contraption that kind of stabilizes our camera shots. And it puts a lot of different devices we use all, on one, gadget, if you will. And it can act as a tripod, a monopod, and it stabilizes the shots, like I said. So many times when people show footage, it's always when the cameraman sneezed and jerked or something like that. So, I use this to try and keep the camera steady, and it helps a great deal.
What's this green thing right here?
That's from the dollar store. That's a light. And I don't mean to give you a little crossfire here, brother, but check that out. Real fancy, $1.
There you go. All right, and so EVP would be what? Who can explain that?
It's an electronic voice phenomenon, and what it is we go into a location with a digital recorder, and we ask questions, and occasionally you'll get responses to your questions at a very low frequency, a frequency that's not heard by the human ear, but when you listen back to it, sometimes you can get answers. So we listen back to hours and hours and hours of recording to see if we get anything.
And what about an EMF?
Electromagnetic frequency. You can measure it with one of these devices. It occurs in nature, and there's high points, low points. So before we do an investigation, we will go through, sweep a room, outlets, electrical appliances, like a refrigerator when it kicks on, we'll make these activate. So we sweep the room to see where the high points are, and we know then that if something's happening and these are going off, there's a reason for it.
Great. And how did the show come into being?
That's a long question, and we can go into it for.
It's a short question, long answer, right? Yeah.
The short answer to that question is Ron had formed a group called the Chicago Paranormal Detectives years ago with a bunch of guys that were cops. It was my concept to put the idea on the television, and the two of us came together and formed a friendship, and we all bonded at once and decided to go forward to put this idea on the television and hopefully provide good answers, credible answers to people.
Great. And Brian, you helped get this on TV, I understand. Is that correct?
I just made a few calls. That's really all I did. I just happened to, it was just kind of a cold call that I made to a production company in New York. These guys have been doing what they did for years, and it was just obviously interesting working with them, and I ended up placing a phone call to a company in New York called North South Productions, and they fell in love with the idea just even right off of the phone call and wanted to see something. So I shot them an electronic file, a sampling of what we had done, and got a call shortly after that, and they said they had a producer in Chicago. They wanted to meet us the next day, and didn't know if they were available or not, but told them that we'd be there, and it just kind of took off from there.
If you want to contact us, it's the ChicagoParanormalDetectives.com. We're on Facebook. Get a hold of us. We love to correspond with everybody.
Great. Anything else you guys like to say on camera?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, we're honored to be able to talk to you. Yeah, hey.
Wow, you're the man of the hour. And we all love Portillo's.
Yes.
I have no idea what that meant, but
Either. I'm not
Take
sure.
a look at me and figure it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm a healthy eater, folks. I mean, I don't know how wide your screens are at home.
hi. One question here: How do you work taping the show with your different shifts and that you work as police officers?
Well, we all of us come from 4 different departments. We all work on different shifts. So in order for us to do an investigation, we all have to coordinate our schedules we take sick days, days off, vacation days, switch shifts with our fellow officers and do whatever we can so that we can go on these investigations. That's why when we do an investigation, we reject about 85% of the investigations we get requests for. We just don't have the luxury of dropping everything we're doing and running out to do an investigation. Plus, there has to be an extreme need for us to be there in the first place. We're not here to do an investigation because somebody's just curious. It's because they can't handle living in their home. They can't handle working at their job, and they need some type of answer from us. And so that's when we come out and do what we can for them.
How long does it take you to wrap up your investigation, and do you have any ongoing investigations?
Well, I mean, an investigation, it could be one night, it could be 2 nights. I mean, we don't put an end, time limit on it. But then once we are done with the investigation, we will spend days, maybe even a week or two, going over all the evidence that we've collected. We don't want to miss anything, and we will present to the group after our evidence is collected all kinds of different things that we caught that just don't make sense. And we present to the group because now we have everybody putting in their 2 cents. We'll look at the video together, and just because I see something and think that it could be paranormal, Fabs or Tom or Austin or Scott, Brian, anybody could say, hey, well, what about this over here? And there's an explanation for it. So, we all share each other's thoughts and work together to, pull whatever best evidence we can out of each investigation.
Great. And do your skills as paranormal detectives spill back over to your police work at all?
Tom had an interesting case where we used our medium, Mariah.
Okay.
Yeah, I ran into a situation where I was investigating a case of a kid that was missing. He was a heroin addict, and he had left suicide notes for his parents before, and they were worried that he had gotten to the point where he was going to kill himself. And we had come to the point in our investigation where we came to a dead end. We didn't know where this kid was, and I figured it doesn't hurt to call Mariah up. So I called up our medium, and she provided me with answers and locations as to where this kid was that ended up panning out. And luckily, we found this kid before anything happened, and he was at a very traumatic state in his life. But we all believe in her. She's very credible. She's a piece of equipment, and I hate to call her a piece of equipment, but a piece of equipment that we use while we're investigating, and we believe in her answers, and we follow her direction.
So it's been helpful. And have your departments been supportive?
Yeah, all of our police departments have been supportive. Our administrations have given us the consent to go forward with this. It doesn't conflict with anything that we do on duty or anything like that. But yeah, we've got the support of all of our friends, other cops, and our bosses, absolutely.
Great. Can you tell us what departments you're with?
We're Northwest Suburban Police Department.
Chicagoland. All right, that's as far as it goes. Chicagoland police officers. Okay, guys, great. Thanks. Anything else?
No, that's it. Mariah's not with us tonight. Austin and Scott. They're 3 more members of our team that just couldn't make it tonight. So,
All right, great, guys. Appreciate
thank
it.
you so much.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Hi, we're the
Chicago Paranormal Detectives, and you're watching Count Midnight.
Yeah, baby.